What they used to always say to me, why don't you smile more? Why don't you laugh more? And I said, you know when I laugh? When someone tells me a funny joke. I'm not just going to...
Do you get the sense that he cares about any of this?
No,
I don't think he cares about anything.
I don't think he cares about
He cares about horses.
What is patois?
Look it up.
How do you even spell patois?
Yes, I already knew you didn't know that one.
I thought it was patois, Patoir. I Googled it, and it pulls up Urban Dictionary. A stupid Frenchman who was a Boy Scout and had sex with a moose.
What?
So how do you spell patois?
I know it's stupid. I don't care.
Come on.
And you know why there's pressure on you, pal? You know why there's pressure on you? Because you've never gotten out of the second round.
Welcome to the Daily Ding. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. Hey, go to theathletic.com/NBA show and get The Athletic for a discounted rate. We are live on YouTube. You can join us here every night of the week during the playoffs. Tonight, I've got my good friend Mark Schindler with me. Mark, light the beam! Light the beam, because the Kings win 114-106. Man, Mark, this was an outstanding basketball game.
Yeah, this first round series has been incredible. Obviously, it's only 2 games, but still, the atmosphere has been unreal. I think I am very much somebody who would rather sit and watch games by myself in my room with no sound on. And both nights, I have thought to myself and said aloud, like, I wish I was there. Like, the atmosphere has been crazy. Tonight was just electric.
Yeah, I was very jealous of those that got to be in the Golden One Center. Right now, this is something that's never happened since Steph Curry has worn a Warriors jersey. He's never been down 0-2 in a series. In fact, the Warriors haven't been down 0-2 in a series since 2007 in the second round against the Utah Jazz. Mark, you remember anything you were doing in 2007?
Honestly, no, because I probably hadn't turned 10 quite yet at the time of that series. So no idea what I was up to.
This game was unbelievable. DeAaron Fox is a superstar tonight. 24 points, 5 boards, 9 assists, 4 steals, a block. He was phenomenal down the stretch of this game. What did you see from Fox?
It was wild because I agree with you. He was really, really impressive down the stretch, but it was so interesting because I was talking about this. I was doing a live stream of the game with my friend Zach Milner, and it was kind of remarkable because in that fourth, it's never really felt at any point, even throughout the season. Like, this team has never really gotten rattled by anything. They just keep doing them.
Yeah.
And there was probably a 5 or 6 possession string where they just kept taking the first shot that came to them, which is part of their offensive philosophy, to be fair. But they missed 5 or 6 straight. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it was starting to look a little bit dire. And then I think that was right before the incident occurred.
Oh, boy.
And then they came back. I mean, Fox scored, pull up, contested 2, right on top of that. It's been his composure is just crazy. Not that he's never been a composed player or anything before this, but the level that he's hit this year and to have that extend into the playoffs has been, I've never really seen anybody kind of just ascend is the wrong word. I think he's been that guy this year, but when you do it at this level in the playoffs, that's when you get talked about in being that level and stature. And the defense is what it's been more about to me. I think what's been so fun about the series, even in game 1, obviously you can point out what the score was, but I thought both teams played defense extremely well in that game. It was just the pace was nuts. They had some crazy hot shooting performances, and I think you saw some of the shot making die down a little bit in this game, and the defense really shined through. I have so many thoughts on this game, man.
Yeah, the beginning of this game was rough, and it was kind of funny because we'll talk about the Philly Brooklyn game here in a little bit, but it felt like, okay, we're coming out of the Philly Brooklyn game. Can we wipe our palate clean, please, with this Warriors Kings game? And then it was just like turnover city.
Yeah.
Like for the entire first quarter. Just kind of a rough performance. I think both teams had 9 turnovers in the first quarter. And the way that the Kings kind of turned things around and flipped it from there was pretty impressive. And then the Warriors just didn't. The Warriors ended up with 20 turnovers in this game, which I think it's obviously been something that's plagued the Warriors throughout this entire tenure, is that they're just willing to just kind of fling the ball around. And if they turn the ball over, so be it. And tonight there was just a lot of it. And that on top of the antics from Draymond Green kind of added up to this win for the Kings, I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back on the defense, we haven't even mentioned his name. Davion Mitchell hit the game winner here. What should be considered the game winner, the separator, put them up.
Yeah, that sunk them. That completely sunk the Warriors at the end of this game.
He was incredible tonight. Like, you look at his box score, and it's not anything crazy. 14, 2 and 3, 2 steals. But the defense he played on Steph Curry tonight was incredible. Like, they and it wasn't just him. Like, their team defense. I'm gonna write a breakdown on this tomorrow probably, because it was beautiful to watch. Like, their defense was on a string. Anytime they got burned by something, they adjusted on the fly. Like, there was they ran double drags for Steph with Clay as the second screener, and he came off on a flare as Steph came off. So Davion was chasing. They were chasing over top on every single Steph screen, mostly switching everything else. And so they do that. That opens up Clay. I think that was the first clean 3 that Clay hit and had all game. And then they ran the same play next possession, and Sacramento just switched the action automatically, took it away. That's how good their defense was tonight. Like, to actually be able to do that on the fly that is without coaching, as far as I'm like, there was no timeout in between that. Like, maybe they call out to switch it and do it differently from the sideline. But like, the fact that they're able to actually implement that and do that was emblematic of how special their defensive performance was tonight. Like, again, it comes back to how limited the Warriors are offensively outside Steph and Clay. But you just have to tip your hat to that defense, because that was incredible. And like, so much of what this series was about, everyone was like, oh, what is this going to look like with how this, this defense, or like 25th, 26th in defensive rating, the personnel. And like, I think I've always been understanding of the personnel point. Like, that's fair. I think there are guys who do things really well. But when you're able to game plan for a series like this, and you're able to just stick to your principles and add a couple things on, they just have it. Their rotations have all been on point. It felt like nobody had a bad closeout. Domantas Sabonis was incredible on switching out and hedging, and like, they were playing like, this speaks to how incredible Steph is. Mm-hmm. Like, and I tweeted this clip out. I clipped it in the middle of the game, but they were showing at the level at half court when they tried to set a ball screen that high. And like, I've never seen a team do that before. I'm sure it's happened before. That's the first time I can remember ever seeing that. I'm sure teams have done it to Steph before, but that's just the first time it stuck out. But like, yeah, that was they threw absolutely everything at the Warriors tonight, and it was a big reason why they ended up forcing as many turnovers as they did.
Yeah, Fox in particular, there were a couple plays where Fox they're doubling Steph, and Fox just tips one of his passes, and then they're just off. Like, you basically just count 2 points just right when he tips that ball, just because they just fly up and down the court.
It's the first team I've ever watched play the Warriors where I felt that they could play as fast, or if not faster, than they do.
Yeah.
And part of that too is, again, like, the Warriors don't have, it's not the same roster as last year, like, no shit, but they still have played like that, when they have their good games, when they're moving the ball, when they're moving their bodies. It was actually kind of funny tonight, because I said this too, like, this is like, there have always been maybe they need a little bit more kind of like rumblings, but like, this is this game, there were so many points that I could look at and be like, they're passing too much with looking at the Warriors. And that let the Kings be as aggressive as they were. They were like, okay, well, we're just not worried about you as a scorer. Like, that was this game was so fun. Like, I mean, especially like you mentioned with, I don't even know if we're talking about Brooklyn and Philly, because like that game, like so much of what worked, like Philly just went zone, completely packed the paint, and was like, all right, well, you're not scoring unless you're hitting a jumper.
Mm-hmm.
And in this game, I clipped this one too. There was a point in, I think it was the third quarter, where every single defender for the Kings, except for one, had 1 foot outside the arc. Like like I think this is like the most emblematic game of how nuts and different spacing can be that you can possibly mention. I mean, Alex Len is defending out on the perimeter. Like it's wild to watch. It was so fun.
And most people think like, oh no, the Kings are going into San Francisco now. They're playing at Chase. How's this going to go? Do you know what the Kings' defensive rating was on the road this year?
It wasn't better on the road than at home?
Yeah, they're 8th in the league on the road. And they're like in the 20s at home. So like they consistently played better defense on the road. So I think this series is going to be really interesting. I think a lot of people think, and this may be how it goes, is that home teams win and then you just battle it out for game 7. Like who does not want a game 7 at the Golden One? Who doesn't want to try to light the beam in a game 7? I mean, I want that. I want that badly. So let's get some wins, Warriors. And I think that's so fun. We got to talk about Draymond. Draymond Green. It felt like he was kind of ramping up towards something throughout this. You could tell that he was definitely agitated. This was a very physical game.
Yeah.
I thought the way that both teams played was extremely physical. And there's a moment in the fourth quarter where Sabonis is on the ground, Draymond's kind of hovering around him, and Sabonis grabs his leg. And obviously, that's not something that Draymond liked. And so he proceeds to just stomp right on Sabonis' chest and then runs off. And then during like the review, he's hyping up the crowd and is screaming at the crowd. I mean, all kinds of profane things. You could tell what he was saying on the broadcast. This is a wild one. You know, Draymond's done a lot of wild things. I don't know where this ranks. There needs to be some kind of like article or something ranking like the most wild things that Draymond Green has done. I think this has got to be like toward the top 3. I mean, stomping on someone's chest, it doesn't get that much worse.
Yeah, it sucked to see the moment because exactly like you mentioned, I think like he and Sabonis were like jostling with each other the entire night. I did not love how the refs called this game. Like I appreciated that they wanted to let the game be physical and you know let players play, but I do think it bit them in the ass late in the game.
Yeah.
Like when you saw how the game started being called and some of the things were questionable and yeah, I think the way that I look at it is, I mean, similar to you, like you can't grab his leg and then you definitely can't, you know, that was more than a step. That was a stomp. And I don't think that people need to run with it to the extent that it might be getting right now, but also like, you just can't do that. Like, I think the ejection was warranted. I don't know if I'm not, you know, I don't know the rules well enough to declare whether or not that should be a suspension. I think the last time we saw somebody do something similar, it was a suspension. I'm not calling for that. I don't know. Regardless, was not a good look for either of them. Definitely a little bit of a worse look for Draymond.
Yeah, Jen is asking in the chat if Draymond deserves a suspension for the next game. And maybe this isn't the way you should look at it, but I would want to know they're getting X-rays on Sabonis. I just want to know if there's like any like real damage done before I know if he needs to be suspended or not. Maybe that's not the way to look at it, but I also just want the best series possible, and that includes Draymond Green. And so he did get tossed from the game. If Domas is good to go, then I'm good to go with him playing the next game. Okay, let's talk a little bit of this Sixers Nets game, which was just in the absolute mud. It was
It's a very fair way to put it.
a very brutal game. 96-94 was the final score. 33.9 for Tyrese Maxey, who I just thought was the only guy that I really felt like brought the energy. The Sixers were playing this game like it was some rando game in January when this game started. The Nets, they brought it. They punched him in the mouth. They tried some pretty great defenses. I mean, they were really trying to get the ball out of Embiid's hands, and I thought they did a fantastic job tonight. They played their all-wing lineup quite a bit, and that kind of screwed up the Sixers. Their zone defense really screwed up the Sixers, and it just took a little time for them to recalibrate and for the Sixers to actually show up to this game. And then when they did, it was over. But this was just kind of a brutal watch, honestly, from start to finish.
Yeah, I think it was tough because it was kind of emblematic of I think Jackson Frank tweeted this out. It was emblematic of the game that they played on February 11th. So it was like just after the trade deadline, Nets start blowing out the Sixers, and then Sixers make an adjustment. It's like, oh, well, we don't have anything for that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I felt a lot of the same. I really liked what the Nets came out doing. They Spencer Dinwiddie just did not have it in game one. Did not end up having it tonight either. But, they were. They kind of struggled a little bit to get traction offensively in the first quarter. I thought it was mostly fine, but then in the second quarter, they really started cooking with grease by using Spencer Dinwiddie as their primary screener. They took Claxton out. They played small most of the quarter, and they just were like, okay, we're going to, whether you're being guarded by James Harden or Tyrese Maxey, we're pulling you into action, and that's so much of what opened up things for Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Mikal did not shoot well tonight, but still got going a lot and getting the ball downhill. But again, as soon as the Sixers went zone in the second half, they're like, it was pretty much hit a jumper or bust. Like they had no worry in the world about anybody driving to the basket. And Joel was like, you can say what you want about how he shot the ball tonight, but his defense was nuts. They could not find any way to draw him out of the paint. And he was content sitting, roaming around the paint, and just blew up everything. He was so good on that end tonight. And then obviously was big late with his offense as well. So
even when they did pull him out, because it happened a couple of times, he was right back at the rim.
Yeah.
And
he had I want to say Seth got wide open Seth Curry got wide open for some reason in the corner. Joel ran out to close out and contest, ran Seth off the line. And then somebody stepped up on a rotation to get Seth. Seth drops it off, and then Joel comes flying back in to pin it at the rim. Like, yeah, he was everywhere.
I think that ended up being a goaltend, but still, it was just like, man, I don't
like the coverage in general. Also, we have Ben Stiller is tweeting about the Sacramento Kings right now. So they're transcending the sport.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, Embiid with 20 points, 19 boards, 7 assists. He did have 8 turnovers, which is kind of emblematic of the night too. And man, I'm a little concerned about James Harden. 8 points on 13 shots, looked sluggish. He dished out 7 assists, 4 steals. Like, that's great. But just like his overall vibe and energy on the court was concerning to me. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, he did not look good tonight. Secretly, I feel like they almost need this to not be a sweep so that they can get him going.
Yeah,
to be fair, I thought he was solid in game one. But yeah, tonight was rough. He just kind of didn't really feel comfortable getting into the paint. It didn't seem like, I thought that the Nets did a really good job of sitting on his left and forcing him to go right a ton. But they're again, I think like you said on the energy, like this team they did not really get out on transition at all, other than Tyrese Maxey.
They would have been sunk without Maxey tonight.
Yeah. In the first half, they would have been down 15 if it wasn't for Maxey in the first half.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, he was really fun to watch. He even had he had a big block. Like he did a ton of stuff that was fun to watch tonight. But
yeah,
because the Nets tried to play off of him a little bit too, and they were bit for that as well. But yeah, seeing Harden look like this is not great.
Yeah. Do you think Harden can make it past the second round? This is from Mac for a Better Tomorrow in the chat. I'm not betting. I would not make that bet.
Depends who they play. Depends on how injuries work out too as well, I guess. But if Joel is going to struggle from the field, I think they're kind of screwed. Like I felt that coming in, even feeling like Harden was still looking pretty good. And especially if I don't think that's what Harden's going to look like the rest of the playoffs, but they can't afford to have games where Joel doesn't score 35 plus for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Akram in the chat says that Domas Sabonis is getting X-rays right now. So by the time you're listening to this, unless you're following along live, you may know what the outcome is there. Hey, before we go, congrats to Jaren Jackson Jr., who was named Defensive Player of the Year. He's the second youngest in the history of the NBA, only behind Dwight Howard, who was only just a few months younger than Triple J when he got the award. Mark, that's going to do it for today's show. Tampering is up next. Hey, Mark, send us out.
Ding, ding, y'all.
Sweet. If you guys have questions in the chat, throw them at us. We'll hang out for just a couple minutes before we go. Forum Blue Kevin says, I feel stupid for doubting the Kings. They are for real. Looks like the Lakers will be facing them if we take care of business. Yeah. I think a lot of people are feeling that way tonight in particular.
Not a victory lap, but
I
did not. I do have receipts, but I did not end up writing anything on it. I wrote an article right before the playoffs about how I thought this team was getting slept on is the wrong word, but a counter view of hey, this team really could do something in the playoffs. I picked the Kings in 6 before this series. I was not a believer that the Warriors were going to be able to just flip a switch and come right back in. And you know what? I mean, exactly like you mentioned too, they play 2 games at Chase Center. So it could look very different in 4 or 5 days. But I think based on where it's at right now, where both teams are at, I still just do not think that this is about them playing home and away. This was not an effort issue. Mm-hmm. I think the defense, the defense is what has been a lot of the problem when they're playing away games. Defense has been fine. It's the offense is just so lacking. We didn't even talk about it. Jordan Poole has been awful in this series.
So bad. So bad.
That has been incredibly disappointing to see. And I think he's a lot better than what he's shown.
Yeah.
But they also needed a lot more from him. Just the passing has been completely off. The shot hasn't been there. Even around the rim, he's been pretty lackluster, which is unusual for him. Hopefully, that could be the biggest change is just Jordan Poole playing well at Chase Center.
Yeah. Yeah. They need him pretty badly. It's basically just the difference between he and Monk. Monk has been so good.
He was really good tonight, but oh my God, what he did in game 1 was just
holy smokes, man.
That was crazy.
Free throws. He was unbelievable. Is there anybody that you want to see get upset from Mac for a Better Tomorrow?
See anybody get upset? I don't know if I want to see anybody get upset. I think I would like to see the Cavs win tomorrow so that we can see this series continue to go, because I think that has the potential to continue to be a really fun series. I liked game 1 a lot.
Yeah.
In general, I just want good series. Mm-hmm. To be fair, I have nothing against the Warriors, but I want the Kings to win this series. I want that badly. I think.
It's funny to say that the 3 seed, it would be upsetting the 6 seed, but that's what the Vegas odds would tell you.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I also just love it's funny because I am not the biggest Russell Westbrook guy and haven't been for a while. But watching Russ defend at the end of that Suns game, it just lit a fire within my soul.
Yeah, especially him on the glass too was God damn, man. He was everywhere. Part of it too, it felt like the Clippers were just stuck in mud, but
yeah,
part of that was how insanely aggressive he was.
Yeah.
I don't remember who tweeted this, but somebody said something Russ is compete level is just like on 110 right now. And yeah, it was special. Like
Yeah.
that was it was one of the most confusing is the wrong word, but like, and even double-edged sword is the wrong word, but like seeing, because I thought largely in the first half that Russ's decision making was pretty good. Like I thought like he could have cut out some of the pull-ups, but those are I always think that people go a little too hard on the missed pull-ups. But the second half, like that third quarter was a disaster fest from Russ.
Yeah.
Like misses at the rim, shots blocked, taking shots that had no right to be taken, couple turnovers. And then the fourth quarter, he's just like, all right, I'm just going to rebound everything. And I'm going to do everything I need to get the ball going and moving and then be incredibly good on the defensive end. And like that was awesome. It was one of the hardest to parse through 3 and 19 games I've ever seen.
That's what we call in Oklahoma City that we just started it. We just call it good rest, bad rest.
Yeah.
It's like you have to, if you're gonna just ride the rest experience, you got to take both. It comes with both, you know. You just don't have a choice. And it's a lot more bad, certainly in the past few years, than good. But holy smokes, just that Booker play where he blocks him and then throws the ball off of him.
Oh, that was special. Like
that if you don't have basketball feelings about that, like I can't help you, because like that was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the clutch free throws, as Elizabeth in the chat says, was so fun. Okay, anything else before we go? Because Mark and I need to go to sleep.
I am good, honestly. I'm very ready to go to bed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mark, thanks for doing this. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us, and tune in tomorrow night. We'll be live again. Hope you guys have a good night.